Teacher burnout is no joke, especially after these last 3 years of teaching. But in today's video, I'm sharing 3 ways that could help avoid the burnout and help you still actually enjoy being a teacher. If you're new here, I'm Rachel Vincent, and I share tips on running effective and efficient classrooms so that you can get more done and still have time to teach. So before I get into those ways, I really just want to say that if teaching is really affecting your mental health, then this in no way is to make you feel bad that you can't do these things or you've tried it and it doesn't work. It is okay to realize that you need to step away from being a teacher. I think for the longest time there was some shame that came with teachers who left the classroom, but I want you to know that that is not what this space is for. This space is to help teachers who are continuing, and if you're stepping away from the classroom, it is okay and you need to do what is best for you. A few videos ago, I shared one of the big reasons I think that helps teachers to stay in the classroom is to remember their why and why they wanted to become a teacher and what they want to accomplish at the end of their teaching career. And I will link that video below for you to watch if you would like to watch that. However, I don't think that that is enough anymore. That sustained me for a very long time. But in the last 3 years with teaching during a pandemic and all of the things that have really begun to surface in education, knowing your why, unfortunately, is not enough anymore. So the things I'm going to share today are not revolutionary, but they're things that are important to keep in mind that can help you when those days are not that great. There's 3 areas that really tend to add to teacher burnout. And the first area is what I like to call the others. They're the other people, the other voices. They may be your coworkers, they may be people on social media, they may be parents, they may be your class, your students, but the other voices that are affecting how you are viewing your time in the classroom. Most of the others you can avoid except your own students. The coworkers, the people on social media, parents, you have a way to kind of tune them out. When it comes to coworkers, the easiest fix is to nod your head, be polite, and then, walk away from the situation or close your door and don't join in that conversation. When it comes to social media, you are in control of your social media feed. You can decide what you're putting into your mind. So if it is negative and not bringing you joy, then unfollow. Or if it is a family member or somebody that you don't want them to know that you are unfollowing them, there are ways to hide them or mute them so that it looks like you're still following them, but they are no longer showing up in your feed. Of course, if you have a year where your students, it's just a struggle of you have maybe behavior issues, you have students that aren't getting along, you just have one of those years. I know personally that I have had many of those years before, and the year is tough, and you try things to fix some of the situations, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But the good news about being a teacher is that year will come to an end and you will get a whole new batch of students and you can try new things to make it work. There are ways to deal with that. It's not as easy as per se your coworkers or social media, but there is a way to avoid the others that are negatively impacting your day. The next thing that can get in the way of enjoying teaching and add to teacher burnout are the boundaries. There are boundaries in a lot of areas. The first big boundary is probably your contract hours. Yes, there are times of the year where you will probably need to work past your contract hours. The beginning of the year, parent-teacher conference season, after school activities and events, meetings. Some of those things are inevitable. I know that when I signed my contract, it says that I'm required to do these obligations that my supervisor, meaning my principal, set forth. And it's not like set in stone. But I do know that those things exist. However, on days that I don't have those, will leave when my contract time is over. And I even set an alarm so that if I get going and busy doing something, the alarm will go off and remind me, okay, wrap it up, it's time to go home. And I had this conversation with my teammates and said, you know, I'm going to be really just setting this boundary. So if we're going to meet, we need to meet so that we're finished by then. It's interesting, what I noticed is that they started leaving at their contract hours too. And so it was like a ripple effect, and it really just helped overall. It helps me to have a life outside of teaching. I can pursue other passions of mine, and just led for a better afternoon, evening, instead of it being like work super late and then come home with all those thoughts and things from school. Another boundary that is critical to set is an email boundary, and not checking your email after you leave. Because I do contract hours, I told my parents at the beginning of the year, if you email me during the school day, I will get back to you that day. But if you email me after school, I will not respond till the following morning. And I had to delete my email from my phone, and it's just really helped not to, if I get a parent email, even if I didn't respond to them, to think about it all night long and let that affect my sleep and things like that. Other boundaries could be committing to doing different committees or events or things like that for the school. If it is not a hell yes, then it is a no. If you don't really want to do it and have a passion to do it, then you should say no, because every time you say yes to something, you are saying no to something else. Whether it's time with your family, time to work out, time to work on other passions of yours. So think about what you're going to commit to and say yes to this school year. I heard a story once that described women in general as a glass vase. So often we are pouring ourselves out to others. And especially as teachers, we are doing that with our students. We are pouring ourselves into our students, helping them academically, emotionally, in all the areas. Often what teachers will do is they will pour, as in turn that vase on its side, and eventually the vase will fall and it will shatter. But what we should do instead is stand up tall and fill ourselves and continue to fill ourselves. And what happens is once we're full, then we overflow onto others. And the only way that we are able to fill ourselves is to make sure that we are not being consumed by teaching, and finding ways to fill us, whether it's physically, emotionally, spiritually, however that looks for you. Find ways to fill yourself up so that you can overflow to your students. The last area that leads to burnout is what I like to call the system. It is the system of education, and it is state requirements and mandates. It is district requirements. It is your administration. It encompasses all those things, the curriculum, the class size you have. Most of the time, it is things that you do not have control of. That is the part where oftentimes your others, your coworkers, when they're complaining about things, they're typically complaining about those things. We can sit there and talk and complain about the things we can't change and take that negativity into our classroom, or we can think about the things we are in control of. And honestly, at the end of the day, there's really only two things we're in control of. We're in control of our effort and our attitude. And I realized so much this year that attitude was the biggest thing that I let affect how I felt about teaching and about school. And so oftentimes I would scroll social media and read all these people complain about teachers and how lazy we are and how this, and I would just let that feed my mind, and it would affect my attitude. And I would go into the school next day and I would just have that negativity that's what I was spewing onto my class and my students. And it affected how I felt about being a teacher and how I felt about the school year and all of those things. And so I had to sort of backtrack and realize that I can't control any of that. And if that's where I put my focus, then I'm going to be a miserable teacher. So I have to put my focus somewhere else. So the fix for that is really just to think about what is in your control. What can you control? What attitude can you give towards this? What kind of effort can you give towards this? What can you change in your classroom to make things better? But all that other stuff, you just have to tune it out. And I know some days it's harder than others. In order to sustain the system we're in, that's what we're just gonna have to do. And that doesn't mean we shouldn't voice our concerns and voice our opinions about how the system needs to change, but we can't let that affect us every day that we're in the classroom with our students. Now that you know some ways that will hopefully help you avoid some of that burnout, how do you know if staying in the classroom is really worth it to you? Well, check out the video that's on your screen where I will share with you what I think is the secret to longevity in the classroom. I'll see you over there.